Hello class, I just wanted to do a short video that covers some of the concepts that you're doing in quiz 1 in section 2.2. This is just kind of a quick overview. One of the things that this asks you to do in this section is to know how to find the domain and range of a graph. When we're talking about the domain, we're talking about the x values. Now, if you notice in this graph, it has arrows on the end. That is telling us that this side goes off towards negative infinity. This goes off to positive infinity when we're looking at our x values. If we're looking at our y values, notice it starts down at the bottom. Here's our y value, and it goes up. So if they ask me to find the domain in this would be considered all real numbers because it's going off from negative infinity to positive infinity. But the range would be y is greater than or equal to -6, because notice it starts at -6, including -6. Let's see if I can find it. It starts at -6 and it goes up. So we would write the range as y is greater than or equal to -6. So that's dealing with your domain and range. Now I wanted you to see the next one. Let's see. Well, I was finding another one. I thought they gave us one with points. Let me see if I can find it right quick. Maybe not. I was looking to see if they give us another one with domain and range. I don't think so. Okay, so we'll go back and look at some of the others. If they had given us a point on the end of the graph, I'm going back to the original somewhere. Let me get back there. Well, here we are. Okay, so if they'd given us dots on the end of this instead of the lines, then we would look between the dots to see what our x values would be. And you would say the x is between those two dots. So that's how you do that if you have a dot. Now, the next problem asks us to find the slope if it exists of a line between two pairs of points. Well, when you're finding the slope, you're using a formula that says that m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So this is the formula. Now, we are given 2 points. We're given 3, -1, and we're given 3, -2. Now, they're going to ask you to show work on your problems on your test. So the show work would be taking and putting these numbers into your variables. And notice this first point, this would be x1. This would be y1, this is x2, and this is y2. And you're going to fill in the blanks. Well, if you notice, we have 2 x values that are the same. So in the denominator, we would end up with 3 minus 3 in the denominator. That gives us a 0 in the denominator. When that happens, that is automatically undefined. Okay, if you had 0 in the numerator in the top part, then your slope would have been 0. But since it's 0 in the denominator, then it's automatically undefined. So that's what they're doing in this problem. Slope is undefined. Okay, next kind of problem. Next problem says, write the inequality in interval notation. Now, let me tell you about this. When you're writing out your from inequality to interval notation, what you want to do is draw a number line. And on that number line, you want to mark off what it gives you. So in this, it says 5 is less than or equal to x. So I'm going to come on my number line, and I'm going to put a 5. Now notice it says less than or equal to. So that means I'm going to put a closed circle. Let me do this, and then I'll show you. So I'm going to put a closed circle, and then it says x is less than. So I'm going to shade to the left, less than. Notice that goes off to infinity. So if I was going to write this out in interval notation, you always use parentheses with infinity. So parenthesis infinity, comma, a 5. Now, if I have an equal sign, like in this one, less than or equal to, that means I'm going to use a bracket to close it up. If it did not have an equal sign, I would use a parenthesis. So I've gone from inequality notation to interval notation. Now notice this was negative infinity, and it says 5 is less than x. I'm looking to see, what did they do? 5 is less than or equal to x. This is the wrong answer on here. It's supposed to be from negative infinity to 5 is what that's supposed to be. That's odd. So that answer is wrong on that quiz. So it should be this, negative infinity to 5. That's 5 is less than or equal to x. Okay. Strange. Okay. Now the next one. It says use the graph to determine intervals where f is decreasing and where f is increasing. What I want to do is show you this. If you click this magnifying glass right here, click the magnifying glass, you can make your graph larger so that you can zoom out and see what's going on this. So notice on this one, we are going from a negative infinity up to a 2. And that's where it starts changing. Notice direction. So if you follow this line, you're going up to negative 2. Then notice you decrease and go from negative 2 to positive 2. And then we increase again. We go from negative 2 to a positive infinity. So when we go to select our answers, notice we're going from, it says, and where the interval is increasing, notice it went from a negative infinity right here up to a 2, or negative 2. And that's what's happening in this one. Let's see, I'm trying to find it. In this one, and then notice there's a break. We're just telling where they increase, so you use a union symbol, and then it went 2 to infinity. That's where it increases. The next part says choose where the function is decreasing. That's when it was in between the two numbers, negative 2 and positive 2. So notice that's this one right there. Okay, so that's how you'll go about doing this one. Okay, let me find my next one, number 5. Write an equation for the line shown on the right. When we write equations, our formula, let me write it down, y equals mx plus b. That's our equation for when we have a linear line, straight line. M is my slope and b is my y-intercept. So what I want to do is look at the graph first, and I want to see where it crosses my y-axis. So I want to click the magnifying glass again. I'm going to click that. I'm going to look to see where it crosses. So notice it crosses at 6. So in place of my b, underneath it, I'm going to write a 6. Now, to find my slope, notice I need to check to make sure my lines, they're counting by 1. So that's right. So to get to this second point, this point right here, I'm going to go up 1, 2. So I have a 2 in my numerator. I increased by 2. I went up 2. And I'm going to count over. So if I count over from here over, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's my denominator in my slope. So it's a 5. Okay, so I'm going to put 2 over 5 x, and I'm going to put y equals, and so my equation is y equals 2 over 5x plus 6. So it's rise over run is how you look at this. And you notice it already has the y equal. You just put in the 2 over 5x plus 6, whatever. Okay, another problem. Let's see what else we have. Okay, they are going to give you 2 points and ask you to find the equation and point slope formula. Okay, this is a formula. Let me write it down. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay, here's the equation. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay, if you go back up to your slope formula, if you cross multiply these, if you multiply the m times the x's, and then you have the y, it's like putting a 1 over it, and you cross multiply that way, it gives you this equation, except you just take the 2's out. Now what you're going to have to do is you'll have to find the slope using this equation, You plug it in, and then you have to pick your first point that they give you and fill it in for your y and your x. So if we do this one, notice here's my points. I have a -1, -8, and a -4, -6. I'd have to find my slope. So if you actually plug it in, find your slope, you'll get a -2/3. Then notice what they're doing is taking this point and filling into my equation that I have. My original equation has negative signs. Both of these points have negatives. So notice when I plug it in the formula, it becomes a positive. So we have y, I'm trying to find where I'm at here. Y plus 8 equals -2/3, parenthesis, x plus 1, close parenthesis. Now you're going to solve this by distributing and moving the 8 to get this format, which is your slope-intercept form. So that's the first half of the quiz.